Income Level 1. $25,000 a year. You're sitting in the driver's seat of a 15-year-old Honda. The engine is idling, but the heater barely works. You can see your own breath in the cold air. Next to you is a girl you really like. She's looking out the passenger window, smiling, completely unaware of the absolute psychological warfare happening inside your head. Welcome to the survival box. You just took her to a mid-tier burger place downtown. The entire date cost $38. But at this income level, $38 isn't just money. It is survival math. Before you even picked her up, you were sitting on the edge of your bed, staring at your banking app. You had exactly $62 in checking. You mentally calculated the $38 for the food, the $12 for gas to get her home, and the exact amount you needed to survive until Friday's paycheck. When the waiter dropped the black leather book on the table, your heart rate physically spiked. You smiled at her, but your chest was tight. You slid your debit card into the leather flap, and for the next 3 minutes, you silently prayed to a God you barely talk to that the bank's servers wouldn't decline the charge. You're physically on a date, but mentally, you're entirely consumed by the fear of being exposed. You feel deeply, fundamentally insecure. You want to buy her flowers. You want to take her to the beautiful Italian place with the dim lighting. But you can't. Instead, you make jokes to cover up the anxiety. You overcompensate with humor because you have absolutely zero financial leverage. The darkest part of Level 1 isn't the cheap food or the cold car. It is the suffocating feeling that you are failing as a man. It is the silent, crushing weight of knowing that if an emergency happens right now, if your tire blows out on the way to her apartment, you cannot afford to fix it. You drop her off. You smile. But the second she closes the car door, your smile completely vanishes. You grip the steering wheel, staring into the dark street. You tell yourself this is temporary. You tell yourself that if you can just get a real salary, all this anxiety will disappear. So, you grind. You put your head down. You enter the middle class. Income Level 2. $60,000 a year. Welcome to the treadmill. You're sitting across from her in a dimly lit, crowded chain restaurant. There is a waitstaff rushing past, carrying heavy trays. The ambient noise of 100 overlapping conversations fills the room. You're wearing a decent shirt. Your car in the parking lot doesn't make a rattling sound anymore. You look at the menu. You don't have to scan for the cheapest item anymore. You order the steak. She orders the salmon. You get a $20 bottle of wine to share. When the check comes, it's $95. You don't panic. Your card doesn't decline. You drop it on the table with a casual flick of the wrist. You feel stable, but you're not free. At $60,000 a year, you have successfully masked your poverty, but you haven't bought your freedom. You're living for the weekends. You take her out on a Friday night, but beneath the surface, you are completely, physically, and emotionally exhausted. You spent the last 45 hours sitting in traffic, sitting in a cubicle, answering to a manager who doesn't respect you, and fighting for a 3% annual raise. You're trying to be romantic. You're trying to be present. But behind your eyes, you're silently calculating your rent, your new car payment, and your student loans. You realize that paying a $100 dinner tab doesn't break you, but it prevents you from building real wealth. You're comfortable, but you're entirely stagnant. You still fight about money, not about whether you can afford groceries, but about why you can't afford a real vacation. You want to take her to Europe, but you settle for a 3-day weekend at a cheap Airbnb 2 hours away. You're trapped in the illusion of stability. But you are ambitious. You refuse to settle for the middle-class script. You decide you need to become a high earner. You need the 6-figure corporate lifestyle. You step onto the escalator, and you walk directly into a perfectly engineered psychological trap. Income level 3. $150,000 a year. Welcome to the fake luxury trap. It is 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. You are sitting on the patio of a high-end rooftop lounge in the center of the city. The skyline is glowing behind you. You're wearing a tailored jacket. You pulled up to the valet in a financed BMW. She looks stunning. She takes her phone out, angles the camera to capture the skyline, the expensive cocktails, and your watch, and posts it to her Instagram story. To the rest of the world, you have completely made it. You are the ultimate success story. When the bill arrives for $280, you don't even look at the itemized receipt. You just drop a heavy metal credit card on the silver tray. You are buying status. You are buying validation. You want her and everyone watching her social media to know exactly how much you earn. But the darkest part of level 3 isn't the money you're spending. It is the terrifying reality of what that money is actually costing you. Right in the middle of her telling you a story about her week, your phone vibrates on the table. You glance down. It's an email from your boss. Instantly, your heart rate spikes. Your eyes glaze over. She is still talking, but you don't hear a single word she is saying. You are mentally transported right back to the office. You're physically sitting on a beautiful rooftop, but psychologically, you're chained to a desk. At $150,000 a year, you don't own your life. The corporation owns you. They pay you an incredible salary, and in exchange, they demand absolute control over your central nervous system. Your relationships begin to suffer from a completely new type of poison. It isn't the stress of poverty. It is the stress of absence. She tells you that you are never fully present. She tells you that you care more about your title than you care about her. And the worst part is, she is absolutely right. You are paying for luxury experiences, but you are entirely too stressed to actually experience them. You use expensive gifts and 5-star dinners as a band-aid to apologize for canceling plans at the last minute because of a work emergency. You realize you have built a golden cage. You look across the table at her. The neon lights reflect in her eyes. You realize that a high salary doesn't buy you freedom. It just makes you a highly paid servant. You want out. You want leverage. You stop trying to climb the corporate ladder, and you decide to build your own machine. Income level 4. $400,000 a year. Welcome to the fortress. You're no longer an employee. You're an owner. You're sitting in a quiet, secluded, dimly lit, private dining room. There are no flashing neon lights. There is no loud music. There is no one taking pictures for Instagram. The chaotic, desperate energy of level 3 is completely gone. At $400,000 a year, your psychology fundamentally shifts. You're no longer trying to prove your worth to a woman by throwing money at a table. You don't care about the valet seeing your car. You have completely stepped out of the status game. You have achieved quiet confidence. When you look at her, you are finally, truly present. Your phone is not on the table. It is on silent, buried in your coat pocket. You have a team that handles the emergencies. You have systems in place. Your business prints money whether you are looking at a screen or looking into her eyes. For the first time in your entire life, the friction of survival is completely gone. Because the financial anxiety is erased, the relationship is forced to stand on its own merit. You can't blame your arguments on money anymore. You can't blame your distance on your boss. You realize that money doesn't buy a perfect relationship. It acts as a massive magnifying glass. It strips away all the external excuses and exposes exactly who you both are at your core. You are no longer dating to find someone to survive with. You are dating to find an equal. You are looking for a partner who brings you emotional peace because you have already secured the financial peace yourself. You pay the $400 dinner tab. It feels exactly the same as buying a cup of coffee. It doesn't even register in your nervous system. You walk out into the cool night air. You feel a deep, resonant sense of control over your own reality. But there is still one final level, the absolute apex of the financial matrix. Income level 5, $2 million a year. Welcome to the ownership class. At $2 million a year in liquid cash flow, the traditional concept of dating completely dissolves. You aren't making reservations at crowded restaurants. You aren't standing in lines. You're sitting on the teak deck of a chartered boat, anchored in a completely silent cove in the Mediterranean, or sitting by a fire in a secluded mountain cabin you own in absolute privacy. The defining characteristic of Level 5 is exclusivity, not exclusivity of wealth, but exclusivity of access to your energy. You have bought back 100% of your biological time. But at this level, a new, incredibly sharp filter enters your psychology. Trust. When you have the power to buy anything, the only thing that holds any actual value is authenticity. You don't wear clothes with massive designer logos. You don't need to. You become highly selective. You realize that most people are deeply attracted to the lifestyle, but very few are actually attracted to the man who built it. You develop an emotional maturity that is rare and impenetrable. You can look across the table and instantly read a person's intentions. You're looking for a woman who would have sat in the passenger seat of that freezing cold Honda at level 1 and still looked at you with respect. You sit by the fire. The only sound is the cracking of the wood and the wind outside. You look at the woman next to you. You realize something profound about the entire journey. Money never once bought you love. It never bought you genuine connection. All money did was slowly, methodically remove the noise. It removed the panic of the declined credit card. It removed the exhaustion of the 40-hour work week. It removed the toxic chains of the corporate boss. Money didn't create the beautiful moments. It just bought you the blank canvas and the time required to actually paint them. You realize that a man without leverage is a man who cannot fully protect the people he loves from the stress of the world. But a man who builds his machine, secures his freedom, and masters his own ego becomes an unstoppable force of peace. Which level are you standing in right now? Are you still doing the math in the survival box? Are you trapped on the corporate treadmill? Or are you actively building the fortress? Your time is running out. Stop waiting for permission.